Some technical questions coming your way, and the first one that is trending highly is asking, is the data set of the labeled schools publicly available, and who is the satellite image provider? So if anyone else wanted to take a look at the data that you have and the schools that you have mapped, would they be able to do this, and where?
As often as we can, yeah. So our team has a very strong value of open source. So whenever we can, we make both the code, the algorithms. So the algorithms that we've created for these automatic detections will be made public as well. They are not yet because we are finalizing them, but they'll be public eventually. And the data whenever we can as well. And this depends on the data provider. So sometimes the data provider prefers to keep the data private, but whenever it's possible, we make it public. And if you go to the website, you can see the visualization where you can actually look into the data and see the data over there. So we are always careful because we know that in some countries or in some scenarios, this data might be sensitive and the governments might want to keep it private. And in those cases, we of course respect that, but whenever we can, we make it public.
Music to our ears. The next question, so on the data that you have collected, and if you could say a little bit like the types of data source that you use, so what are the maps that you're using, but how do you ground truth them? How do you actually verify that what you are identifying as a school is actually a school and not some other building that resembles it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because actually many times you get the data and when we start looking into that, you realize that half of the locations fall in the middle of a river or in the middle of the ocean. So it's actually a challenge. It's a challenge that we are facing. In the case of Colombia, we've worked with data validation team that are used to or have been trained to do this validation through satellite imagery. So what we did, we first took the data that was provided by the government of Colombia, and these data mappers went through those locations in satellite imagery, and they created 3 different classes. One was the locations that were obvious schools from a visual perspective. If you look at them from a satellite imagery, you can clearly say that it's a school. And there is a criteria that we developed to decide what's a school and what's not a school. So that's the first one. Then the second one is locations that are clearly not schools, and this could be locations with no buildings at all, or buildings that are clearly not schools. And then the third one, unclear from a satellite view. The human is not able to tell for sure if it's a school or not, and we classify those as unclear. And then we trained the model using these tags. And from the outcomes or the schools that we've predicted as schools, we followed the same process again. So these humans went again over all the outputs, and they decided which ones were clearly schools. So the 7,000 that we showed earlier are the ones that the data mappers have gone through one by one and have said that they definitely look like a school from a satellite image.
And do you have a sense of the hit rate? How many of the 7,000 were initially classified?
So those 7,000 are the ones that were correctly classified.
Right.
There are many more. So at this point, it's still, I don't think that anytime soon it's going to be a completely automated process. It's a human in the loop type of process where the machine narrows down the search space a lot, but still gives you many locations that are not going to be schools. But at least it's going to be way less than if you had to go and start going through the entire country.